$1 billion a year. That's the number almost nobody noticed tonight. Buried under 7 AI headlines all screaming breaking. Anthropic shipped 2 new models. China floated a $295 billion plan. And yet the move that actually redrew who owns the most valuable ground in technology was one quiet payment. To see why, start with the company everyone wrote off. Apple. Let's run this like an analyst, not a fan. In AI, your attention is the demand, and every lab on Earth is fighting for the same 10 seconds of it. Supply is infinite. There's a launch, a benchmark, a keynote every single day. So the question isn't which story is loud. It's which one actually shifts the balance of supply and demand for the one thing that's genuinely scarce. Hold that filter. Here's the barrage from the last day. Anthropic shipped 2 new Claude families, Fable 5 and Mythos 5. China unveiled a $295 billion data center plan. Apple gave Siri a brand new brain. Claude became a built-in option on the iPhone. Apple killed its old machine learning framework for a new one called Core AI. iOS 27 landed. And Tim Cook quietly announced his final keynote. 7 headlines, 1 news cycle. Your feed treated them as equals, but they are not equal. And pretending they are is exactly how you lose money and waste attention in this market. 6 of these are features, funding lines, and product polish, real, but incremental. One of them is a change in who controls the scarce asset. By the end, you'll see why the boring-looking one outweighs the other 6 combined. First, let's actually lay the 7 on the table. Start with the models, because that's what the headlines screamed loudest. Anthropic released Claude Fable 5 and Claude Mythos 5 today, calling them their next generation of intelligence for the hardest knowledge work and coding problems. On paper, that's enormous, a frontier lab leapfrogging itself again. But notice the rhythm. Anthropic shipped Opus 4.8 less than 2 weeks ago. A new flagship every fortnight isn't a bombshell anymore. It's the metronome. Story 2 is the loudest number of the day. China is drafting a plan to spend 2 trillion yuan, about $295 billion. Over 5 years building a national network of AI data centers per Bloomberg. The twist? At least 80% of the chips must be domestic, from suppliers like Huawei, effectively locking Nvidia and AMD out. It's a staggering figure. But read the fine print. It's still early discussions, funded by long-dated government bonds. Stories 3 and 4 are pure product. Apple replaced its aging machine learning system with a new on-device framework called Core AI, the plumbing for AI across iPhone, iPad, and Mac. And iOS 27 shipped with photos loading 70% faster, AirDrop 80% faster, plus generative tools that reframe and extend your shots. Genuinely nice. Completely irrelevant to who wins this war. This is the spec sheet noise that fills a keynote. Story 5 is sentimental, not strategic. Yesterday's keynote was Tim Cook's last as Apple's chief executive. He hands the company to hardware chief John Ternus on September 1st. A genuine end of an era. And it dominated 1,000 headlines. But a leadership succession, however historic, doesn't move a single unit of the scarce resource we're tracking. File it under important, not pivotal. 2 stories left, and these are the ones that actually matter. Stories 6 and 7 came from the same stage, and almost everyone misread them. Apple gave Siri a completely new brain, and let users pick Claude, ChatGPT, or Gemini as their assistant of choice across the system. The feed cheered. Siri's finally smart. Cute reaction. Wrong frame. Because the real question isn't whether Siri got smarter. It's whose intelligence is now doing the thinking inside a billion-plus iPhones. And that answer is the whole game. Now run each one back through the analyst's filter. Does this change who controls the scarce asset? And what is the scarce asset? Not data centers. Capital can build those. Not phones. There are billions already. The genuinely scarce thing in this entire industry is frontier intelligence. The handful of models smart enough to matter, owned by maybe 4 companies on the planet. Everything else is commodity. Everything. So weigh Fable 5 and Mythos 5 again. Powerful? Absolutely. But a new model depreciates the moment the next one ships. And the next one always ships in weeks. It moves benchmarks, not the balance of power. The labs are running on a treadmill they built themselves. Impressive to watch, exhausting to invest in. And here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Because the treadmill is exactly what makes today's quiet story so dangerous. China's $295 billion plan? Real ambition, but it's a 5-year build-out still in early discussions, funded by bonds that mature in a decade. Its impact lands in 2028 and beyond, not tonight. It's a press release about intentions, not a shift that happened today. Massive number, distant consequence. The market will forget it by next week. The same way it forgets nearly every 9-figure announcement that doesn't change who owns the model. Core AI, faster photos, snappier AirDrop, Cook's farewell, strip them out. their polish and ceremony. None of them touched the scarce asset. So out of 7 bombshells that lit up your screen, 6 just evaporated under one simple question. What's left is a single move, hiding in plain sight, dressed up as a friendly Siri upgrade. Watch closely, because this is the one the analysts will still be citing a year from now. Here's the reveal the cheering crowd missed. Apple, the most valuable consumer tech company on Earth, sitting on the best distribution in human history, did not ship its own frontier model. It couldn't. So it rented one. The brain now answering inside the new Siri isn't Apple's. It's Google's Gemini. The company that defined the smartphone just admitted, in front of the whole industry, that it cannot build the intelligence its own future runs on. And the terms are the tell. Apple is reportedly paying Google somewhere around $1 billion a year to license a custom, roughly 1.2 trillion parameter Gemini model to power Siri. On top of that, Anthropic's Claude is now a selectable option on the iPhone. Think about what that means structurally. Apple didn't become an AI company today. It became an AI distributor, a storefront for someone else's intelligence. This is the supply and demand picture the headlines completely missed. Distribution is now abundant. Apple alone has more than 2 billion active devices. But frontier intelligence is scarce, and Apple just confirmed it doesn't own any. So the value flows past the device and lands on the model. Every time you talk to Siri, you're feeding Google's Gemini and, increasingly, Anthropic's Claude. The phone is the pipe. The water belongs to someone else. And that is the moment the competitive map flipped. For 15 years the question was who makes the best phone. As of yesterday, the phone is a commodity shelf. And the war is purely over whose model sits on it. Google didn't just license a model. It captured the single best distribution channel on the planet. Anthropic didn't just add a feature. It earned a slot inside 1 billion premium devices. They won the day. Apple rented it. Compare the prizes. Anthropic ships another flagship, and it's outdated in a month. China promises money it spends over 5 years. But owning the intelligence layer inside every iPhone? That compounds daily for years, with switching costs that get heavier the more you rely on it. That's not a headline. That's a moat. 6 labs fought for your attention today. 2 of them quietly walked off with Apple's billion-device audience instead. So here's what this actually means for you. Stop grading these announcements by how loud they are. A new model, a giant spending number, a faster photo app. That's theater. The signal is always the same single question. Did this change who owns the scarce asset, frontier intelligence, and who controls the pipes it flows through? Answer that, and the noise sorts itself instantly. Use it as a filter on everything coming next. When the next 7 bombshells drop, and they will probably tomorrow, don't ask which one is biggest. Ask which one moves intelligence from one owner to another, or hands a lab a new distribution channel it didn't have. 90% of AI news is weather. You're hunting for the rare day the climate actually shifts. So here's the one decision I promised you at the start. The bombshell that mattered today wasn't a model or a mega budget. It was Apple quietly choosing to rent its brain from Google and Anthropic instead of building its own. Handing the 2 scarcest companies in tech the richest audience on Earth. If this reframed how you read the headlines, like it, subscribe, and send it to the one person still cheering for a faster Siri. That's the story. If you'd watch one more like this, hit subscribe and I'll have another ready soon.